Chambal is a place I have not visited yet.
Really?
Yeah, and one of the reasons I want to visit Chambal is because it used to also be the home to something called dakus. Dakus are, do you know what dacoit means?
I don't know.
Like, in the Wild West of America, you had like people who were wanted.
Yeah, sure.
Somewhat like the equivalent of that, like the Indian version of
see.
the Wild West.
So it was the kind of the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
that the outlaws would
Yeah,
go.
outlaws.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
so,
cool.
And that's what pulls me to Chambal. But you went there to search for gharials.
That's right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Saw gharials, saw big Indian soft-shell turtles, just all the wildlife on the river there.
What stands out about this land and its wildlife to you? Because you've seen places from all over the globe.
India has such an unbelievable diversity. It's the only place in the world that has bears, lions, and tigers. You know what I mean? It's got everything. And it's so interesting because it's a very populated country. There's tons of people here. And yet there are these unbelievably dense and remote jungles. And as a kid, I'd read Rudyard Kipling, The Jungle Book, and you'd read about the jungle so thick that you can't see into it. And I grew up in Africa. We don't have, where I live, Southern Africa, we don't have deep jungle. We have savannas and grasslands and bush. And then to come here and go down south into the jungle, and you're driving in your vehicle. I snuck out and walked, but don't tell anybody. You're walking in some of the parts of the jungle, and you can't even see 20 feet. And to think like, man, there could be a tiger right there, right in that thick jungle. It's an amazing, beautiful country. It's a crazy, crazy feeling to see that dense Indian jungle.
Yeah, different from jungles that you've seen in the rest of the world? Or
Very
is it,
much so, yeah.
Like, how would it be different from the Amazon rainforest?
The Amazon's big. When you look at the Amazon, it's tall, and the undergrowth is limited because the canopy is so high and it lets so little light in that the undergrowth along the Amazon floor is very sparse, and you can walk freely along the floor of the Amazon. The Indian jungle is very hard to maneuver through. It's got all these vines and bushes, and it's like, to me, it's the iconic dense jungle. And of course, the people and the climate and everything else, the sounds, the smells, everything are different. But I think India has this like deep, dark jungle that's unparalleled.
Yeah, we've had a lot of soldiers on the show. And every time I've asked any of the soldiers about the most difficult terrain they faced in India, they don't say the mountains or the desert. They say, they name this particular part of India called Nagaland.
Yeah.
Which is like further east from where Assam is.
Okay.
It's basically really, really dense forest.
Yeah.
And you can't get through that jungle without being really good at it.
Here's something interesting.
Yeah.
They say human beings are designed to walk through every habitat in the world except for mangroves. In mangroves, we're not designed for it. It's up and down and over the mangrove roots, and you sink in the mud. But I don't believe that. I think there are two habitats that we're not designed for. One is that mangrove ecosystem. The other is the Indian dense jungle. And I've never seen anything like it anywhere else. Really? That's why the soldiers say that's the hardest. Because, and you kind of think about it, it's true. Like, think about Amazonian tribes or Papuan tribes. There's 800 languages spoken in Papua New Guinea. That whole country is jungle. People can move freely through that jungle quite well. But here, the jungle is so dense, even your best soldiers say it's one of the hardest terrains to move through.
How's Papua New Guinea as a land? It's a land that calls out a lot to me.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's unbelievably tribal. It's dense in a different way, but dense. When I've flown across the country a few times from Port Moresby out to the coast and stuff, and you'll be in a small plane and fly for 4 hours and not see one hut, one smoke, one building, nothing. And you're just cruising over mountains and jungle and waterfall, and then you land in this little village of 200, 400 people, whatever. And it's, to me, and some people may combat this, but I found it very violent. Like, the people are very violent. Their way of life is very violent. Like I said, 800 languages. 800 languages because the tribes are so insular, they don't want to communicate with each other. And so when you get a city like Port Moresby, which is a westernized city, and you bring 800 cultures into one place, it's this melting pot of cultures. And of course, everybody says this is dangerous, that's dangerous. But if I hate you and you hate me traditionally, tribally, and then you see him walking down the street when you're drunk or chewing betel nut or something, it's like, let's get them.
Really?
It's such an interesting place. But it also has some of the most endemic and fascinating wildlife of anywhere on the planet.
I gotta go down the people tangent first.
Sure, you love people. I'll talk about it all day.
Violent towards each other, I assume? Or it's also towards like foreigners?
I mean, I never felt in jeopardy ever. I felt even when we came over this waterfall and we found this burial area full of human skulls and there were warriors all around us and stuff, I never really felt in danger. I was nervous because it was a very unusual experience, but I never felt personally in danger. But it seems like the tribal warfare there, modern cities and things, that's gone for the most part globally. But there it's still held on to. So I would say mostly against each other.
Really?
But that's from an outside perspective. I'm not an expert, but I look at it as a very tribally violent nation in an interesting way.
I think I'd asked you this question the first time I'd met you. But I know you go on these expeditions to find extinct animals, or you're just exploring nature with like a lot of energy, with your, your soul's exploring.
Yes.
So say on an evening or an afternoon where you find something that you're looking for. It's maybe like this tiger you've heard of, or this particular kind of crocodile. That particular being that you saw out in the forest, do you ever dream of it that night, or do you feel a connection that lasts beyond the encounter?
Absolutely. All the time. And I think the reason for me is because I probably would have been a really good hunter if I like killing things. I don't. But if I did, I probably would have been, because I love the pursuit and the reward is to find that thing. So if it's that rare crocodile or that rare tiger or whatever it happens to be, what you don't see on TV when I'm making a TV show or a documentary or whatever is the 11 days before you find it that you're looking. And then you have that moment that you find it. And that moment is this crown jewel of rarity, of experience. And that can last a lifetime with you. Because you work so hard to find something that nobody else can find, or nobody else has seen in a long time, or is just really rare. It doesn't even have to be that special and nobody else has done it. It's just, it doesn't even have to be special at all. Just be something that's special to me. Like seeing a tiger for the first time, which wasn't that hard because I just went on a safari, but it could be something that's common, that's special to me, like a gharial on the Chambal. The first time I saw a gharial, which has been my favorite animal since I was maybe 6 years old, it was very special to me, and that sticks with me. And I dream about that, and I think about that. And I don't just dream about it that night. I might go home tonight and dream about the first time I found an anaconda in the wild, which was probably 12 years ago now. It's not all the time, but it happens a lot because there's so much emotion in those moments that it comes back to me.
Have you ever cried in any of those moments?
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, I nearly cried when we found the tortoise, which I mentioned earlier in the Galapagos, which was one of the biggest moments of my life. It's the rarest animal in the world. There's only one of the species, and we found it.
Is it the huge one?
Yeah. The one you see me in all the pictures with.
Right.
Rarest animal in the world, the only one of that species. I nearly cried. I cracked, my voice was cracking and stuff because that was like happy tears. But then I think I mentioned this earlier in our conversation too. When I watched the Grind, which is where they slaughter the pilot whales, I full on cried there. Yeah. And the first time I went to Vantara, when I saw how they had all these rescued elephants that had come from the circus and everything else, and I did a little experiment, if you want to call it. I took their chains that some of them had come from, and I threw them on the ground in front of the elephants, and they picked them up and threw them across the jungle, like angry, like they didn't want to see them. I nearly cried then too. I had like a big lump in my throat that time. And we filmed that. My cameraman, I turned the camera on my cameraman, and he was fully crying, and I was like, like trying to swallow the lump in my throat to talk. Yeah.
Tiny story.
Sure.
Back when I started lifting weights for the first time, I got pretty big.
Nice.
I was eating 36 eggs a day, and
oh wow,
I got really strong and really big. And I think I was dealing with a lot at that point. So I'd walk from my home to my gym, which is about like a 500-meter walk, and I'd probably carry a lot of anger in my heart in those walks. And this one time, I saw these teenage boys throwing stones at a dog. And I ran up to them and I scared them through my muscles.
Yeah.
And the dog picked up what I did. And it came up to me and just jumped on me and said, thank you. And I petted it and I just let it go. That moment taught me something that I learned later on about the spiritual side of animals, which is that when you do help an animal, it leaves you with some kind of a blessing. It blesses you and goes away.
I'm the hugest believer in karma. And I don't know, I think the way Indian culture sees karma is a little bit different to how I understand karma, which to me is just if you do good, you get good, right? If you do good things, you're returned by good things. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I believe, and I hope that's true, that I'm a good person and that the whole reason that I'm here, as we talked about, is to save animals. And I think that's a good thing to do. And because of that, what I get in return is experiences like what you had with the dog all the time. Not specifically that, but that feeling, an elephant saying thank you to me, a gharial presenting itself to me in the wild. Even though that gharial doesn't even know or care that I'm looking at it, something in the karma universe, it's now presented itself to me and I get to have that experience. And so that's how I believe in karma. And I think that I get that good karma and that good feeling because I put out good feelings for animals.
Wildlife is an energy.
Absolutely.
And it's drawn to some people and it's not drawn to some people.
100%. I'm a magnet for animals, and I can, maybe it sounds arrogant, I don't know, but I cannot explain why. I'll never know why. If I go out, I find animals. Part of that is my training, my tracking ability, my senses, everything else. But the other part of it cannot be accredited to anything. It just happens. I'll just flip over a log and there's a snake. Nobody else would have flipped that log. Nobody else would have thought to look. I don't even know why I did it. There's a snake.